The battle had ended hours ago, but the air inside the ship still smelled of smoke and fear. The human warship floated quietly among drifting metal and the wreckage of smaller crafts. Captain Aaron Cole stood on the observation deck, staring at the stars beyond the cracked glass. He had fought too many battles to count, but this one had left a strange silence in his chest. There were no cheers of victory, no sense of pride, only the cold thought that both sides had lost something they could never regain. The sensors picked up a faint signal not far from the wreck zone. It was weak and irregular, like a heartbeat fading away. The crew expected it to be a decoy, a trap left by the alien enemy, but Cole ordered the rescue drones to bring it in anyway. Some of the younger officers exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen what the alien species, the Vraketh, could do. They were known for deception and cruelty. No one wanted to bring one aboard. When the small pod was finally opened in the hangar, the soldiers stepped back in surprise. Inside was a woman. Her skin was pale silver with faint glowing lines running down her arms and neck. Her eyes, half open, reflected a soft blue light. She looked weak, her body trembling as she tried to move. The medical scanners confirmed she was Vraketh. The crew reacted instantly. A few raised their weapons. One of them said coldly that they should end it before it became a problem, but Cole stepped forward and told them to lower their weapons. His voice was calm but firm. He ordered the medics to treat her injuries and bring her to the medical bay. The crew looked at each other in disbelief. No one could understand why their captain wanted to save an enemy. Cole didn't explain. He only said, "She's still alive." That's enough reason. The alien woman woke several hours later. She was lying on a medical bed, her wrists bound by soft restraint bands. When she opened her eyes, she saw the white lights of the ship's ceiling and the human standing nearby. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she turned her head and whispered something in a language that the translators barely caught. It sounded like a plea, a few broken words of English. "End me before they find me." Cole was standing a few steps away listening. Her voice was weak but filled with something deeper than fear. It was despair. He came closer, stopping just beside her bed. She looked up at him, expecting him to finish what the battle had started. Instead, he placed the scanner back on the table and told the medic to keep her stable. His tone was steady but kind. "No one is ending you here," he said. The woman blinked, confused. She couldn't understand why a human would spare her. The last thing she remembered was her ship being destroyed and the screams of her own kind over the radio. She had believed the humans would kill every survivor on sight, but this one didn't. He looked at her like someone seeing a wounded creature, not an enemy. Over the next hours, rumors spread across the ship. Some called the alien a spy. Others said she carried a weapon inside her body. A few even whispered that the captain had lost his mind. Cole heard their talk but didn't react. He had learned long ago that leadership wasn't about being liked. It was about doing what was right, even when no one understood. When the ship's doctor asked what to do with the prisoner, Cole gave simple orders. She was to be given food, water, and a secure room under guard. No torture, no questioning until she recovered. The doctor hesitated but followed his command. The crew obeyed because they had seen Cole survive things no one else could. Still, the tension in the air grew thicker each day. Late that night, Cole returned to the observation deck. The stars glimmered beyond the cracked glass, and for a moment he felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him. He thought of the countless lives lost, of the planets burned, and the endless war that had turned enemies into monsters on both sides. He wondered if mercy was still a weakness or if it was the last proof that humanity hadn't turned cold. He didn't know why he had saved her. Maybe it was because she looked scared. Maybe because her eyes, strange as they were, carried the same pain he had seen in human refugees. Or maybe because deep down he was tired of death. He had killed enough for 10 lifetimes. In her quiet cell, the alien woman sat awake, her head resting against the wall. The bandages around her arms glowed faintly where her veins pulsed with light. She tried to understand the humans around her, their language, their cold metal halls, their strange mercy. She didn't know what they wanted from her, but she knew one thing for sure. The human captain who spared her had changed something inside her. For the first time since her world burned, she didn't want to die. Outside, the ship drifted slowly through the dark, carrying two beings who had every reason to hate each other. Yet something had begun between them, something neither of them could name. And far away, deep in the black, the enemy was already searching for her. The next morning came slowly on the ship. The engines hummed in the background like a heartbeat, steady and soft. Captain Aaron Cole walked through the corridor, his boots echoing on the metal floor. He stopped outside the medical section where 2 guards stood watch. Their eyes followed him, but they didn't speak. Everyone knew where he was going. Everyone had questions they were too afraid to ask. Inside the room, the alien woman sat by the corner of her bed. Her silver skin still carried faint lines of light under the bandages. The moment she saw him, she lowered her head. She didn't try to speak. Cole noticed the untouched food tray beside her. She hadn't eaten again. He sighed quietly and sat down in the chair across from her. He spoke softly like he would to a child afraid of the dark. "You need strength to heal. If you don't eat, you won't make it." She didn't answer. Only her fingers trembled a little. Cole turned his eyes to the window behind her. Beyond it, the endless black of space stretched forever. He wondered how many of her people were out there right now searching for her. He also wondered if she wanted to be found. He placed the food tray closer to her and waited. After a long moment, she looked up. Her voice was rough, broken by a strange accent. "Why?" she asked. The translator blinked softly as it converted her words. Cole tilted his head, not sure what she meant. "Why what?" he asked. Her pale eyes met his, full of confusion and sadness. "Why you don't end me?" she whispered. Cole didn't answer right away. He leaned back in the chair, thinking. He could have said it was against orders, or that she was worth more alive, but those weren't the reasons. "Because I don't kill the helpless," he said at last. "And because I think there's more to you than an enemy." She looked away again, staring at the wall. Her light dimmed a little, as if something inside her heart was fading. "Your people hate mine," she said quietly. "And my kind hate yours." Cole nodded. "Yes, that's true," he said. "But maybe we've both been wrong." The ship's doctor entered, interrupting the quiet moment. He gave Cole a brief report. Her vitals were stabilizing, but her body chemistry was strange. It changed when she was afraid, glowing brighter. The doctor warned that the crew was nervous. Some believed she carried a weapon inside her. Others thought she was tracking them. Cole told him to keep her isolated but safe. The doctor nodded, though his face showed doubt. Later that day, while Cole reviewed reports in the control room, 2 officers began to argue nearby. One of them said the alien was dangerous. The other said the captain was losing his mind. Cole ignored them at first, but when their voices rose, he stood up. "That's enough," he said firmly. "If I hear one more word about harming her, I'll have you both off duty. We're soldiers, not butchers." The room went silent after that. Even the hum of the engines seemed quieter. That night, Cole returned to the alien's room again. The lights were dim. She sat on the floor instead of the bed, tracing her fingers along the cold metal. He sat down beside her, not too close, but close enough for her to see he meant no harm. "You have a name?" he asked gently. For a while she said nothing. Then in a voice barely above a breath, she answered, "Lyra." He repeated it softly, as if testing the sound. "Lyra, that's a beautiful name." She didn't smile, but her light pulsed once in a slow rhythm like a heartbeat. He asked if she remembered the battle. Her eyes darkened. "My ship was ordered to destroy your colony," she said. "I refused. They called me traitor. I escaped before they could erase me." Cole listened in silence. Every word told him she wasn't lying. Her voice shook not from guilt, but from memories that hurt to speak. "So you ran," he said quietly. "You ran and we found you." She nodded slowly. "I thought you would finish it," she said. "It would be easier." Cole shook his head. "Easy isn't the same as right," he said. For the first time, Lyra looked straight at him. Her glowing eyes studied his face carefully, as if searching for weakness or deceit. She found none. There was only weariness and a strange kindness she didn't understand. To her people, mercy was a flaw. Among the humans, it seemed like strength. It confused her, but in that confusion, something new began to take root. Trust. Outside the room, one of the guards leaned closer to the door, listening. He heard the alien speaking softly, then the captain's calm replies. He frowned and whispered to his partner, "He's getting too close to it." The other man said nothing but stared ahead, pretending not to hear. When Cole finally left, Lyra watched the door close behind him. The of the engine surrounded her again. She touched her wrist where the bandages covered the faint glow and whispered his name under her breath. She didn't know why she said it. Maybe it was because he had looked at her like she mattered. For someone who had been ready to die, that small feeling was enough to make her want to live one more day. Out in the dark, the stars burned cold and bright, and somewhere far beyond them, her people were still searching for the traitor who had betrayed the Empire. She didn't know what they would do if they found her, but deep down, she knew the human captain would not let them take her easily. The following days passed with slow tension. Every corner of the ship felt colder, as if the metal itself held its breath. The crew still whispered about the alien woman, wondering why she was kept alive. Some said she was feeding information to the enemy through unknown signals. Others believed she was part of a larger plan, a trap waiting to spring. Captain Cole heard all of it but gave no response. His orders were simple: no harm, no panic, no assumptions until proof appeared. Inside her cell, Lyra began to eat small portions of food. She spoke little but started to answer questions when the doctor came to check her vitals. Her voice was soft, sometimes trembling. Most of her words were careful, as if she measured each one before saying it. Cole visited her whenever his duties allowed. He noticed that the glow in her veins had become dimmer, not from illness, but from something deeper, sadness or guilt. One evening, while Cole stood near the observation window, the ship's communication officer ran in. His face was pale. "Captain, we received a distress call. It came from Convoy Epsilon. They've gone silent after entering the Eridani belt." Cole's expression hardened. That convoy carried hundreds of civilians and supply units. Losing it would mean starvation for 2 colonies. He ordered a full scan of the sector. Lyra's name flashed through his mind. She had once served with the enemy fleet, and maybe she knew something that could help. Against the protest of his officers, Cole went straight to her room. When he entered, she stood by the wall, her eyes fixed on the stars beyond the small window. "Lyra," he said, his tone firm but calm. "A convoy disappeared near the Eridani belt. Does that name mean anything to you?" At first, she stayed quiet. Then she turned to him, her glow flickering faintly. "You should not go there," she whispered. Cole stepped closer. "Why not?" She hesitated, as if afraid of what would happen if she spoke the truth. "Because it's not empty space," she said. "There is a weapon there. Something my people built. It traps ships by bending their own signals back around them. You cannot see it, but it's there." The word struck him like cold steel. Cole asked, "How do you know this?" Her eyes met his without fear. "Because I helped design it," she said quietly. Before I fled, Cole's mind raced. It explained too much. The missing ships, the strange interference, the silence in that part of space. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. Lyra's answer came slow and heavy. "Because those people you lost are still alive. The field doesn't destroy, it holds. They will die slowly unless you shut it down." The crew gathered in the strategy room minutes later. Cole stood before the projection map showing the belt and its surrounding systems. Lyra sat beside the table, her hands bound loosely. The officers watched her with cold eyes, distrust clear in every glance. Cole motioned for her to speak. She explained the resonance field, a massive ring powered by gravity wells that trapped ships using their own energy. The more they tried to escape, the stronger the field grew. Her voice trembled as she spoke, not from fear of death, but from shame. She told them she left her people when she discovered the weapon would be used not against soldiers, but against civilians. When she finished, silence filled the room. Commander Hale slammed his hand on the table. "You expect us to believe that? She could be sending false coordinates to lead us into that trap." Others nodded. Cole stayed calm. "We'll send a drone first," he said. "If she's lying, it'll be destroyed. If not, we'll have proof." The drone left the ship within the hour. The wait felt endless. Lyra sat quietly, her gaze fixed on the metal floor. The crew avoided her. Cole stayed near the command console, watching the data feed. Then, after several long minutes, the readings came in. Massive energy distortion, identical to what she described. The convoy's beacon signals were faint but present. The officer turned toward Cole, astonished. She was telling the truth. Lyra looked up, her glowing eyes calm but tired. "Now you know," she said softly. "But if you go there, you must destroy the control hub. It's hidden inside a relay station near the field's core." Cole nodded slowly. He knew the mission would be dangerous, maybe impossible. Yet he also knew he couldn't ignore it. After the meeting, Hale followed Cole down the hallway. "Sir, you can't trust her." We all saw what her kind did to the colonies. This could still be part of something larger. Cole stopped and looked at him. His voice was steady. Maybe it is, but if there's even a small chance she's right, then it's a chance worth taking. That night, Cole returned to Lyra's cell again. The lights were dim, the hum of the engine soft. She stood by the window, her hand resting against the glass. When she heard him enter, she spoke without turning. "They hate me, don't they?" Cole sighed. "They don't understand you yet." She looked back at him, her voice quiet. "And do you?" He didn't answer right away. "Not completely," he said, "but I believe you." Her expression softened, and for the first time she smiled faintly. It wasn't the smile of trust, but of relief, like someone realizing they no longer had to face the dark alone. That night, the ship drifted in silence near a cold star. Cole was in his quarters studying the energy maps from the belt. Lyra's words echoed in his mind, the way she spoke of the resonance field, the way she looked like she carried the weight of every life lost. He wanted to believe she could be their ally, but deep down he also knew what fear could do to people. Fear could turn good men into enemies. The alarm broke the quiet. Red lights flashed across the corridors. Cole jumped to his feet and ran toward the bridge, but when he arrived, he saw armed guards standing at the door. Commander Hale was already there, his voice cold and steady. "Captain Cole," Hale said, "I'm relieving you of duty. You've put this crew in danger by trusting that thing." Cole froze. "Stand down," he ordered. But the guards didn't move. Hale nodded toward two men. They stepped forward and pointed their rifles at Cole. "You're under arrest for treason," Hale said. Cole looked around the bridge. He saw faces he had served with for years, faces that now looked away. He didn't argue. He simply raised his hands and said quietly, "Don't hurt anyone. I'll come willingly." They locked him in the same room where Lyra was kept. When the door closed, she looked up, surprised. "Why are you here?" she asked. Cole gave a tired smile. "It seems they think you've taken control of me." She tilted her head, confusion in her glowing eyes. "I don't understand." "Neither do they," he said softly. "They're scared." Outside, Hale and his men took command. Their plan was to send a signal to the nearest fleet base and hand Lyra over for interrogation. They thought they were saving humanity, but in doing so, they didn't know they had already been tracked. In the dark of space, a faint pulse spread from the ship's communication beacon, the same pulse Lyra had warned about. The Vraketh hunters picked it up within minutes. Their ships turned silently toward the human vessel. Inside the cell, Cole paced slowly. Lyra sat near the wall, her head low. The glow under her skin brightened and dimmed again like a heartbeat out of rhythm. She sensed something wrong. "They're coming," she whispered. Cole stopped. "Who?" "My people," she said, her voice shaking. "They found the signal. They'll destroy this ship." He turned to the door and shouted for the guards, but no one answered. The hum of the engines changed pitch. It was the sound of power surging, a sign that enemy ships were nearby. Cole looked back at Lyra. "Can you get us out?" She hesitated. "Maybe," she said. Her hands trembled as the faint light around her fingers grew brighter. The cell's metal door had a small control panel beside it. She placed her hand against it. Her energy sank into the system, making sparks dance across the wires. Cole watched as the lock flickered red, then green. The door slid open with a hiss. Lyra's body swayed. The effort had drained her. Cole caught her before she fell. "Easy," he said. "You did it." They stepped into the corridor, alarms flashing all around. Cole guided her toward the lift. "We need to reach the bridge," he said. Halfway there, two guards appeared. One of them hesitated, his rifle shaking. Cole raised his hands. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "The enemy is coming." Hale's transmission brought them here. "We need to fight together." The younger guard looked uncertain, then slowly lowered his weapon. "You're telling the truth?" he asked. "I wish I wasn't," Cole replied. They reached the bridge just as the ship shook under enemy fire. Hale turned in shock when Cole entered. "How did you get out?" he demanded. Cole ignored the question. "They're here because of your signal," he said. "You gave away our position." Before Hale could argue, the view screen filled with the image of Vraketh warships closing in. Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but urgent. "Their weapons will breach your shields in minutes, but I can link with your system and redirect power to the deflectors." Hale stared at her. "You?" Expect me to let that thing touch our systems? Cole looked at him sharply. If you don't, we're all dead. The ship shook again, throwing sparks across the room. Hale hesitated, then gave a small nod. Cole helped Lyra to the main console. She pressed her glowing hands against the surface. Streams of light moved through the control panels as her energy connected with the ship. The shields brightened, absorbing another hit. Cole stood beside her, watching her face tighten in pain. He wanted to stop her, but she didn't let go. It's working, she whispered. When the attack finally stopped, the enemy ships pulled back. Lyra fell to her knees, weak but alive. The crew stared in silence. Hale stepped forward, his voice quiet now. She saved us. Cole knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. You just proved them all wrong, he said softly. She looked up at him, her light flickering faintly. No, she whispered. I only bought us time. Outside the ship, the stars burned quietly again, but everyone knew it wasn't over. The real battle, the one for trust and survival, was only beginning. The ship floated in silence after the attack. Sparks still flickered from broken panels and smoke hung in the air. The crew worked in quiet shock. They had expected death, yet they were alive only because of the alien woman they once feared. Captain Cole moved slowly across the bridge, checking systems. Lyra sat near the console, breathing weakly. Her skin glowed faintly, dim and unsteady. Commander Hale stood near the viewport, guilt in his eyes. He looked at her, then at Cole. I was wrong, he said quietly. If she hadn't done what she did, we'd be nothing but dust. Cole didn't answer. He was tired, too tired for anger. He only nodded and said, Then help me make her sacrifice mean something. Hale agreed without a word. Lyra's hands trembled as she reached for a water flask. Cole knelt beside her and helped her drink. You shouldn't have done that, he said softly. She looked at him with a faint smile. You would have done the same. He wanted to argue, but she was right. The sensors began to beep again. The communication officer reported that the fleet was still moving toward the Eridani belt, unaware of the trap waiting for them. Cole turned toward Lyra. You said there's a control station inside the resonance field? She nodded slowly. Yes, it's small but heavily shielded. If you destroy it, the field will collapse, Hale frowned. We're in no shape to fight. The engines are barely holding. Cole looked at him, calm but determined. We're not going to fight. We're going to end this. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew what he meant. The plan sounded impossible, but Cole's voice carried a weight that gave them hope. He turned to Lyra. Can you guide us through it? She hesitated, then nodded. I can, but if I link with your system again, it will take everything from me. Cole met her eyes. We'll find another way. She gave a small, sad smile. No, Captain. There is no other way. Hours later, the Resolute Dawn moved slowly toward the glowing edge of the Eridani belt. The stars there shimmered strangely, bending like reflections on water. The closer they got, the more unstable the readings became. Lyra stood near the center console, weak but focused. Her voice was calm as she gave directions. Adjust course 3 degrees left. Keep engines under 50%. The field senses energy. Cole stayed by her side, watching her pale hands move across the controls. The crew followed her orders without question now. The fear that once filled the ship had turned into respect. Every eye on the bridge saw her not as an enemy, but as someone who had saved them all. The moment they crossed into the field, the ship's lights flickered. Space itself seemed to twist around them. Shadows stretched and time felt slower. Lyra closed her eyes, her skin glowing brighter as she connected with the invisible energy around them. They're trying to trap us, she said softly. The field wants to feed on your engines. I can hold it back, but not for long. Cole gave new orders to the crew, his voice steady. Divert all auxiliary power to shields. Keep weapons offline until I say otherwise. The ship trembled as invisible waves pressed against it. Metal groaned under the strain, but Lyra stayed focused. Then, in the distance, a faint structure appeared. It looked like a dark moon made of light and shadow, rotating slowly in the void. That's it, she whispered. The control hub. Cole leaned forward. Weapons ready? Hale hesitated. If we fire now, the field might collapse on us. Cole didn't blink. Then we don't miss. The ship moved closer. Enemy drones began to appear, thin and fast, their glowing trails slicing through the darkness. The crew fired bursts of plasma to clear a path. Lyra guided their aim, her glowing eyes tracking the invisible waves before they hit. Left, she whispered. Now. The ship dodged just in time as a beam of energy passed where they had been seconds earlier. Sweat rolled down Cole's neck. Every breath felt heavier. Distance? He asked. 100,000 kilometers, the navigator said. We'll be in range in 60 seconds. Lyra's glow brightened suddenly. They know we're here, she said. They're overloading the field. If it collapses while we're inside, nothing will survive. Cole looked at her. Can you slow it? She hesitated, then nodded weakly. If I connect directly to your reactor, I can stabilize it for a few minutes. Hale turned sharply. That could kill her. Lyra looked at Cole and said quietly, It will kill all of you if I don't. Cole's jaw tightened. He wanted to refuse, but the truth was clear. Do it, he said at last. She moved to the reactor link, pressing her glowing hands against the core panel. Light spread across her skin, brighter and brighter until the whole room seemed to shine. Now, she whispered. Fire now, Cole gave the order. The main cannon released a single pulse of energy, cutting through the dark. The beam struck the hub directly. For a moment, everything went white. The field shuddered, rippling outward like a storm breaking apart. The twisting light faded. The stars came back into view. On the bridge, alarms blared as the systems overloaded. Cole rushed to Lyra's side. She had fallen to her knees, her glow fading. He caught her before she hit the floor. Lyra, he said softly, stay with me. Her voice was barely a whisper. It's gone, she said. The field is gone. Your people are safe. Cole held her close as the ship drifted free of the collapsing storm. The crew stared at the view outside, the stars clear and bright again. For the first time in weeks, silence felt peaceful. Lyra's eyes flickered open once more. She looked at Cole and smiled faintly. I told you there was another way, he said. She gave a weak laugh. You humans never stop surprising me. Then her head rested against his shoulder as she slipped into sleep. Outside, the stars shimmered gently, no longer twisted by war. For a brief moment, peace seemed possible. The ship drifted quietly after the explosion. The stars outside were clear again, no longer bent by the strange light of the resonance field. The silence felt unreal. Everyone on the bridge sat still, waiting for another alarm, another attack, but none came. The weapon was gone. The convoy signals had returned. Humanity was safe, at least for now. Captain Cole stood beside Lyra, who lay on a medical bed near the bridge. Her skin was pale, the glow under it faint like a dying ember. The doctor said her body had been pushed beyond its limit. She might not wake again. Cole sat beside her for hours, watching her chest rise and fall. Every small breath felt like a miracle. The crew moved quietly, speaking in soft voices. They repaired systems, tended to the wounded, and cleared debris. Commander Hale worked harder than anyone. His guilt was heavy, and he avoided Cole's eyes. Still, the captain gave no sign of anger. There was no room for blame, only survival. Cole finally stood and looked out the viewport. Beyond the stars, faint shadows moved in the distance. He recognized the shape of the Vraketh fleet. They were coming. The destruction of their weapon had exposed them. Now they wanted revenge. He turned to Hale. How long before they reach us? Hale checked the radar. Less than 2 hours. We can't outrun them. The engines won't hold. Cole nodded slowly. Then we stand. The words carried through the ship like fire. The crew gathered at their stations. The Resolute Dawn was damaged but not defeated. Cole moved from one console to another, giving orders in a calm, steady tone. No one questioned him. He had led them through worse and lived. Lyra's body trembled slightly on the bed. Her eyes fluttered open for a moment. The doctor called for Cole, who rushed to her side. She looked at him, her voice weak. You destroyed it, she whispered. Cole smiled faintly. We did. You saved more lives than you'll ever know. Her hand twitched as she reached for his. It's not over, she said softly. They will come. They always do. I know, he said. We'll be ready. She closed her eyes again, her breathing shallow. Cole turned to the doctor. Keep her stable, he said, then went back to the command deck. When the Vraketh ships appeared on the radar, the crew felt the old fear return. But this time it was different. They weren't running or hiding. They were protecting something more than themselves. The enemy fleet spread out like a dark storm. Cole gave the order to power up shields and weapons. We'll draw their attention, he said. Our fleet is still hours away. If we hold this line, they'll have time to regroup. Hale looked at him in disbelief. Sir, that's suicide. Cole met his gaze. Only if we fail. The first blast hit moments later. The ship shook, lights flickering. Sparks fell from the ceiling and alarms screamed. Cole shouted for the crew to hold steady. They fired back, sending bright beams across the black sky. Lyra's eyes opened again in the medical bay. Through the open door, she could hear the sound of impact and chaos. The ship trembled beneath her. She felt the vibration through her bones. Her vision blurred, but she saw the reactor lights flickering. The power systems were failing. She knew what that meant. If the shields collapsed, the next attack would tear them apart. She tried to stand, but her legs were weak. Every step felt like walking through water. The medic tried to stop her, but she shook her head. I have to help, she said. She reached the reactor chamber, her breath uneven. She pressed her glowing hands against the wall, feeling the ship's pulse like a living heart. She whispered something in her own language, a prayer or a promise, then pushed her energy into the system. On the bridge, the lights stabilized. The power returned. The shields brightened again. Cole looked at the readings in disbelief. Who's rerouting power, he asked. The engineer checked the feed. It's coming from the reactor. Someone's inside. Cole's heart sank. Lyra! He ran toward the reactor bay. When he entered, the light was blinding. Lyra stood in the center, her body surrounded by a glowing field. Her eyes were open, calm, but her skin shimmered as if turning to light itself. Cole shouted her name, but she didn't turn. She was part of the ship now, her energy keeping it alive. You can't do this, he called out. It'll kill you. She smiled faintly, her voice soft but clear. You once said mercy isn't weakness. Let me prove it. The floor trembled as the ship fired again. Lyra raised her arms and the glow spread through every cable and circuit. The ship's guns burned brighter than ever before. The next volley struck the enemy head-on, tearing through their formation. The crew cheered as one after another, the enemy ships exploded into light. The last few turned and fled into the dark. The battle was over. Cole stood in the doorway watching as the light around Lyra began to fade. He stepped forward, but the doctor stopped him. She's gone too far, the doctor said softly. Cole ignored him and walked closer. The glow dimmed until only her faint outline remained. Her voice came one last time, barely a whisper. Promise me. You'll end this war. He swallowed hard. I promise. The light flickered once more, then faded completely. The hum of the engines. Captain Cole stood by the viewport. His reflection looked older now, the gray in his hair showing in the faint light. Around him, the crew moved quietly, repairing what they could. No one spoke of victory. They all knew what it had cost. In the medical bay below, the bed where Lyra had lain was empty. Her body had turned to soft particles of light, scattered through the ship's systems. She was gone, yet somehow her presence still filled every sound the vessel made. A signal came through the static, an open broadcast from the human fleet. They had arrived late, finding only silence and the fading traces of the fight. Cole answered the call. His voice was calm but heavy. The resonance field is destroyed. The Vracath weapon is gone. Stand down and recover survivors. When command asked who had led the strike, he paused before answering. It was a joint effort, he said. One of ours, and one who wasn't. Word spread quickly through the human ships. An alien had helped save them. Some refused to believe it. Others called it proof that the war could end. For Cole's crew, there was no question. They had seen it with their own eyes. They began to speak her name with quiet respect, as if saying it kept the light steady. Days later, Cole walked alone through the corridor where Lyra had once stayed. Her small cell looked different now, clean, silent, almost peaceful. He remembered the first time he saw her, weak and afraid, whispering for death. He smiled faintly at the thought of how wrong she had been about him, and about humanity. The ship's systems pulsed softly as he touched the wall. The lights flickered once, almost like a response. He whispered her name under his breath. For a moment he thought he heard a faint echo in the hum of the engines, gentle and familiar. Maybe it was imagination, or maybe it was something more. A transmission came from Earth 2 days later. The High Command had reviewed the data from the Resolute Dawn. The evidence of Lyra's sacrifice could not be denied. They ordered a ceasefire to open negotiations. Cole was asked to lead the first peace meeting. He accepted without hesitation. When the Vracath delegation finally arrived, the meeting took place on a neutral station orbiting a quiet moon. Cole stood at the center of the chamber as the alien envoys entered. Their eyes glowed the same soft blue as Lyra's. The leader of their group stepped forward and spoke in a voice that carried sorrow and pride. "One of our kind died among you. We felt her passing through the stars. Tell us what she did." Cole told them everything. He spoke simply, without anger or blame. How she had warned them, saved their ship, and given her life to stop the weapon. The aliens listened in silence. When he finished, the leader lowered his head. "We called her a traitor," he said. "But she was the only one who remembered what we were meant to be." The talks lasted many hours. For the first time, neither side shouted. They spoke of rebuilding, of shared science, of ending the hunger for war. When the meeting ended, both groups left the chamber quietly, as if afraid to break the fragile peace forming between them. Months passed. The Resolute Dawn was repaired and turned into a research vessel. Its new mission was exploration, not battle. Cole remained its captain, though he carried a small piece of crystal from the reactor where Lyra had stood. It glowed faintly, a single pulse every few seconds like a heartbeat. He kept it near his console, where he could see it whenever the stars grew too still. One evening, as the ship sailed beyond the edge of charted space, the youngest officer approached him. "Sir," she asked, "why do you still keep fighting, for peace, I mean? After everything, aren't you tired?" Cole looked out at the stars, their light reflecting in his tired eyes. "Because she wasn't," he said softly. "She believed there was something better waiting for both our kinds. I can't let that die." The officer nodded quietly and returned to her station. The hum of the engines grew steadier, carrying them into the endless dark. Cole sat alone for a long while, watching the stars drift past. Then he reached for the glowing crystal. It flickered once, and in that soft light he imagined her face again. The faint smile, the calm eyes, the voice that once said, "You humans never stop surprising me." He smiled back. "And you never stop surprising us either," he whispered. Outside, the galaxy stretched wide and silent, filled with worlds waiting to be found. The Resolute Dawn moved forward slowly, its light cutting through the dark like a promise. Somewhere in that vastness, the memory of an alien woman traveled with them, no longer an enemy, no longer a stranger, but a symbol of what humanity could be when it chose compassion over fear. And as the stars drifted by, Captain Cole knew that every pulse of the ship, every spark in the engines, carried a piece of her spirit, a quiet reminder that even in the darkest reaches of space, understanding could still shine brighter than war.